Everyone, this is Lynn here from Paper Life, and I am going to be doing a decoupage. This was done with tissue paper, but I'm going to show you with a napkin how you can do it. And I wanted to give you a little bit of a sneak peek on a digital that I will be releasing here hopefully soon. My ink cartridge wanted to malfunction, as you can tell right there. So I'm waiting on my newest one to arrive, hopefully soon. So let's get down to work. I have some coffee paper here that I've pre-dyed. It's actually printer paper, but it's a much heavier weight. It's really close to like a cardstock. I don't know the weight because I found it at a antique shop the other day. Obviously it's not antique, but I took a box, I think it was actually from Pasta, and I secured a piece of this coffee paper already on it. I just used Mod Podge, which is something else you're going to need. Our handy book pages and a brush, because mine's bigger than the opening. I put some on a paper plate. So let's go ahead and get started. The first thing I want to do is hopefully be in the screen. I'm going to grab a sheet of my book page over here. These are great anytime we do like an altered book cover. Save your pages. I know we have bookworms out there, and so am I. So sorry about cutting up a book, but it's just what we do. I'm going to grab a napkin just so I hopefully do not glue everything to my table. I'm just pouring out a little bit of my Mod Podge. You can use really any kind of glue you want to secure everything down onto the paper. One of the techniques that I've seen done and I use myself is using a glue stick. However, I don't love the security of it. So unless I'm going to go around and sew, I would rather use a better glue. I feel like my hand is really in your way. But I don't know how to cut it off and still be able to use it. So I use my kitchen table to do these videos. So every time I do it, I have to set the tripod back up. So you guys are constantly getting moved around into different positions. So all I'm going to do is kind of press that down, because I don't iron my coffee paper like a lot of you do. I'm just making sure I got a pretty good adhesive or a bond achieved between those two. So still somewhat in view. You're just going to take your napkin and you want to open it up. I found, excuse me, every napkin I've bought so far has had 3 layers. I usually don't have a problem getting them pulled apart. Today I probably will, because that's just how it goes. But another trick is to use some Scotch tape. And what you do is just kind of take the Scotch tape and go right in here in the middle, and it rips up the layers. I usually don't do that because I don't normally have a problem, but today it is giving me a problem. Work with me here, people. Oh, wait, I see a little bit of a divide between those. We have our fall projects going on, so excuse my nails. They are a complete mess, and I haven't taken the time to go get them done in a while. when you buy napkins, don't be afraid to buy the solid colors, because even though, you know, our patterns are really pretty, I really like the colored ones as well, because it just adds a really cool, maybe you don't need the glare, just a kind of cool tint to your paper. Usually if I'm using napkins, they're nowhere near this dark, but this was a tissue paper and it was rather thick. So again, keep an eye on your tissue paper sales. You know, we have after holidays coming up here soon. All right, a little less talk, a little more work. So this isn't a really long video. I'm just taking my Mod Podge and I am going to give a, you want your layer to be well covered, but you don't want it real lumped up. And the reason behind that is when you put this napkin down, it tends to be kind of a, it's very finicky. You know, that's not a, don't try this, oh my gosh, it's so hard. But it tends to be a, once you lay it down, that's what you get. So I'm going to try to carefully lay this down. And with, see, there's really not a whole lot of fixing it once it's there. With these decorative napkins, I try to keep my napkin going down without a whole lot of wrinkles in it. Now when I do the plain colored, I like to leave the wrinkles in there so that when I put my ink over the top, it kind of picks it up. So now that that's kind of glued down, I'm going to set that to the side and hopefully let that dry while I'm showing you the next one. So here is my little bit of cardboard with my coffee paper glued down already. I have a piece of fabric here, and this was something I found during spring, I think, at Joann's, but you can use any of the fabric you would like. I'm going to do the same thing. And doing this really changes the texture of your fabric. It's, I don't know how to explain it very well. It gives it where you can still feel that there's texture to it. You can feel the little grooves in it, but it doesn't have that material-like feel on your fingers. It's pretty cool. I like doing it a lot, but I'm just going to, since this isn't a napkin and it's not as, let me get in view, as fragile, I can just go ahead and coat the top of this with a little bit of my Mod Podge. Mod Podge. Now I'm kind of doing a wipe with my brush. I don't know if you can see, probably not. It does leave like the streaks in there. Another thing that you could do if you wanted the texture with one of these foam brushes is just kind of do a pat down on it. So maybe if you were doing a real simple like white fabric, you could do the patting of it. And maybe it just gives it kind of a, I don't know, a texture to it. So that if you put ink over the top, it will, you know, hit all those high spots and make a kind of cool pattern for you. I'm going to do this layer a little bit thick because I think I'm going to have to pause you and let all of this dry. I do believe. Now, this one's probably not completely dry, but what I'm going to do is just kind of rip off this excess napkin. All right, you guys are really far up on my table. So I'm just going to go through and rip off some of this excess napkin, trying to be careful because I don't want to waste these napkins. I have so many of them. I used to do these all the time, and it's just been something I haven't done in a while. I don't know, you know, we find all these cool new techniques and styles and, oh, I want to do this and, oh, I want to do that. But then I know I forget to go back to some of the ones I had done before. And then when I go through like an old journal or I have an idea book, I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot about that one. That one's really cool. I am going to try to rush this, I think, for the sake of this video, and put a coat on top. Fingers crossed. We'll see how this works. My recommendation would be not to rush it. Wait till it's actually dry, because it is rather easy to rip this napkin under here. I mean, I guess if you think about it, it's pretty easy to rip a napkin. Now you're removing 2/3 of it. It becomes even easier. But hey, who wants to think? I don't know about you guys, and I don't know when I'm going to get this video actually uploaded, but it is way too early in the morning for me to be thinking. Because if I had thought, I would have put you guys in a better spot. So all I'm doing is I'm just taking a generous amount of my Mod Podge, and I'm trying not to do the like stippling on this yet, and that's mostly because my glue underneath is not dry. Once the glue adheres and dries completely, you know, it goes through its curing process, you don't have to be as careful with this paper as I am. So that's my first coat, and I would probably do, you know, 2 to 3 just to achieve the look I'm after. But you want to be careful if you rush this process. I'm going to let this dry and pause you for a minute. I may go ahead and do another coat while you guys are being paused. And once I'm back, I will show you what these look like once I have them cut out. Alright everybody, due to the magic of the pause button, I am back. I was going to have these pre-cut out, but as normal, I'm going to do as I say, not as I do. I tried cutting the first one with just a regular pair of scissors because I didn't want to use my fabric scissors. And my glue was obviously not completely set because that's normal me. So I went and got my trusty utility knife and my ruler. And I found that doing it this way works pretty well. I went ahead and my glue isn't completely set, but I used a heat gun to kind of set it a little bit so I could get back and finish up this video. My kids have decided that I am back to being their maid, so things have been really busy and crazy around here. So if I didn't finish this, I don't necessarily know when I'd get back to doing it. So I wanted to do that now. Instead of using the heavier paper that I used, you could use cardstock. I just don't have any at the current moment. There's a lot of options for this. I know there's a lot of questions, and I've been getting them where it's like, well, how do you layer things? I don't usually layer a lot. I don't know, just not my style. But doing your tags like this allows you the ability to layer more easier, something like that. Because like with the napkin, it already gives you a really pretty background that you're working with. So then all you do is, you know, add on from there, but it gives you a nice background. Instead of trying, you know, it gives you something to build off of instead of trying to start from scratch. Me, usually, I stop at that point. I call it good. I don't know why, that's just me. So now I have I would use this as a journaling card, that's why I just put the plain paper on the back. But it gives it a really nice textual feel. And I don't know why I'm weird like that. I like textures, especially in my journals. So on this one, I don't want all my plain white around the border of the page. So I'm just going to cut that off. This would also be a really good way to use up scraps, because instead of doing the solid book page back there, you could always, you know, layer up all your scraps, and then you have all those different layers running in the background underneath your napkin. I did put one more layer on here before I dried it. If you were, you know, I think on these you can see it a little bit better. I have the ridges from the paintbrush. If you didn't like that, you could always put a couple layers on there, let it dry completely. I don't know how long Mod Podge takes to dry, so I mean, I would literally give it like 2 days to sit out and dry if I got away with not rushing it like normal. I'm going to do this one as a tag to kind of show you. And I don't know, that's kind of big, but that would make a pretty cute journaling card. Sorry, back to the ridges. If you didn't like the ridges, I would let it dry completely. You know, a couple days. See if I can do a tag. I never can. Then take a real fine grit sandpaper. I would recommend probably like a 220. Just real slightly buff those ridges. And then maybe spray it with like a spray lacquer. I will, usually what I do, my house and where I live is way too humid for Mod Podge not to want to be half tacky even after it's dried. So I usually take it outside and, you know, just spray it with a little spray lacquer. So now you have the starting of a tag, or the end of a tag if you were me. You know, a really big journaling card. Maybe after this is completely dry, it would make a really cute envelope, or fold it in half and, you know, put it in your book like that, so it's like a little mini booklet. And I got one other project share I wanted to do, and this is just to kind of give you ideas of what you can do with it. A friend of mine had sent me, this is tissue paper, but it was handmade, and it has, those are leaves and little limbs and stuff like that. So I actually have started a cover using that. So eventually I will be done with that, hopefully. Hopefully, maybe. And on this one I took and did a little paint around the edges. But like on these, I would use more of a permanent ink, like a StazOn, unless you're going to take it outside and spray it with a little spray lacquer, because any of your non-permanent inks, you know, like distressed, Tim Holtz distressed ink, when you put the Mod Podge on there, it'll want to make it run. So just be careful, be mindful of that. And I hope this was helpful. Like I said, my kit will be coming out, so if you are a paper lifer, you know that I will have free printables up. If not, check out our Facebook group. It's Paper Lifers. And I will talk to all of you later.